In a small town surrounded by rolling hills and lush green fields, there stood a charming little school called Oakwood Elementary. The school was famous for its beautiful gardens, friendly atmosphere, and most of all for Mrs. Willow, the beloved third-grade teacher. Mrs. Willow had been teaching at Oakwood Elementary for many years. She was known for her kindness, creativity, and the magical way she made learning fun for all her students. Her classroom was a warm and welcoming place, filled with colorful posters, books, and even a little reading corner where students could curl up with their favorite stories. One bright morning, Mrs. Willow gathered her students around for a special lesson. The sun streamed through the windows, casting a golden glow on the classroom. The children sat eagerly in a circle, their eyes wide with curiosity. "Today, we're going to learn about the power of imagination," Mrs. Willow announced with a twinkle in her eye. She reached into her desk and pulled out a small, mysterious box. The children leaned in, their excitement growing. "This is the magic box," Mrs. Willow said softly. "Inside this box are stories waiting to come to life. But they need our imagination to make them real." The children were intrigued. They had never seen anything like the magic box before. Mrs. Willow opened the lid, revealing a pile of colorful cards. Each card had a picture on one side and a few words on the other. "Who would like to pick the first card?" Mrs. Willow asked. Little Emily, a shy girl with big brown eyes, raised her hand. Mrs. Willow smiled and handed her the box. Emily carefully selected a card and held it up for everyone to see. It had a picture of a glowing tree on it. "Ah, the Enchanted Tree," Mrs. Willow said. "This is a very special card. It tells the story of a tree that grants wishes to those who believe in its magic." The children gasped in delight. They had never heard of such a tree before. Mrs. Willow asked Emily to start the story, and together, the class would continue it, each child adding their own twist to the tale. Emily began hesitantly. "Once upon a time, there was a lonely tree in the middle of a forest. But this was no ordinary tree. It had glowing leaves that shimmered in the moonlight." One by one, the children added to the story. Liam imagined a group of animals who discovered the tree, while Sarah described a mysterious traveler who stumbled upon it during a storm. As the story grew, so did the excitement in the room. Mrs. Willow encouraged them, "Remember, your imagination can take the story anywhere. There are no limits." The children were amazed at how their story unfolded, with twists and turns they hadn't expected. The Enchanted Tree became a place where dreams came true, friendships were forged, and adventures awaited. When the story came to an end, Mrs. Willow looked around at her students, her heart full of pride. "See what you can create when you use your imagination. That's the real magic." The children beamed with happiness. They had not only learned about storytelling but also about the power of working together, sharing ideas, and believing in their creativity. From that day on, the magic box became a treasured part of Mrs. Willow's classroom. The children would often gather around it, ready to embark on new adventures, knowing that in their imaginations, anything was possible. And so, the story of the Enchanted Tree, created by Mrs. Willow and her class, became a legend at Oakwood Elementary, reminding everyone that with a little bit of imagination and a lot of heart, magic could happen anywhere, even in a small classroom in a little school.